afternoon, members and friends. My name is John Ng. I'm the Executive Director of the New Jersey Chinese American Chamber of Commerce. Firstly, I have to apologize. We have a little bit of a technical problem. Some of our panelists is not able to get on to the video as yet. Now we have Chris, we have Chilling. Very good, very good. Let's move on. Again, I would like to thank everybody in taking the time to join our webinar today at your lunch hour. I hope you will enjoy the important topic today, understanding your healthcare coverage options for both employers and employees. Our moderator today is none other than our own Mr. Christopher Law. Many of you may know him. Chris is one of our board of directors, director of National ACE, and his real job is the National Vice President of Asian Initiatives at United Healthcare. Of course, United Healthcare is our sponsors today. We are also pleased to have a featured speaker, Mr. Chris Reuter. You can see his headshot right there. He's smiling, very good. Chris is also a Vice President at United Healthcare in sales. Okay, I was told the presentation today will last about 20 to 30 minutes. And after that, we will answer some of the questions you may have. Please type in your questions. Chris and Chris will do their best to address them. And if any of the questions not answered, we can share the emails in the chat feature and send you an email answer. Okay, for those non-members of NJCACC, we'll invite you to join. Since the start of COVID-19, we have been working very hard to process and pass along important information, and many government outreach directives for your benefits and well-beings for us to go through this pandemic together. For members that have not paid up your membership due, we need your payment, we need your support so that we can carry on with our function. By tomorrow, I will send out an update registration form by email, so please do not spam me. Today, we are very pleased to co-host our webinar with our longtime partner and affiliate, the Asian Pacific Islander American Chamber of Commerce, also known as National ACE. I am very glad to introduce today the President and CEO, Ms. Chilling Tong, who will talk to us more about their organization and how they focus on helping AAPI sales, small business across the country. Here we go, Ms. Chilling Tong. Happy to see you again.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much for the introduction. National ACE is a national nonprofit organization whose mission is to serve as a strong advocate of Asian American Pacific Islander business interests and affect positive change on all issues that enhance and advance the goals and aspiration of AAPI business owners. I really want to thank all of you to be here with us. For the past 6 months, we have worked closely than ever with our national network of more than 60 affiliate Asian Chamber of Commerce and the partners around the country to ensure that the Asian American Pacific Islander business community has the most accurate and up-to-date information about the important resources that are available to our community during this global pandemic. One of our strongest partners is the New Jersey Chinese American Chamber of Commerce. We're so thankful for John, Chris, and the two Chris here, Chris Lau, Chris Reuter, and also healthcare. We'll talk about the healthcare coverage. We are very, very proud partner with all of you, and especially thank for United Healthcare's presentation. We're really, really working together on the, with New Jersey Chinese American Chamber for other series webinars in the future. As you know, we are just beginning to see data that have impact COVID-19 has had on the AAPI business community. And we do offer technical assistance for any business if you are interested to get help, to get a support, no charge to you. So you can log in our website, www.nationalace.org, and we're able to have a consultant to support your business. And also, there's no very significant data about the AAPI business, how AAPI business has been affected by COVID-19. So we are conducting our survey right now. So if you are interested to participate in the survey, please join nationalace.org to fill out the form. It is the way to show your voice. We really like to have the report in the future, to present to the policymaker, to present to the government in order to get a funding for our AAPI business community. Again, I want to thank all of you, New Jersey Chinese American Chamber of Commerce, Xiao Wai, I know you're online. Thank you very much for helping us. And Chris, thank you. I'm really looking forward to hearing this great discussion today.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Chileng. We are proud to be a regional partner for National ACE, and we'll keep everybody informed or posted on more and more webinars to come. We will be putting together a few more in the months ahead of us. Now I am pleased to introduce our friend and moderator for today's webinar, Chris Law, who is the National VP for Asian Initiatives at United Healthcare. Hi, Chris. Looks like we have a little technical glitch. If we cannot get Chris Law, can we go directly or straight to Chris Reuter? Chris.
Chris, you're on mute. Chris?
I appreciate you letting me know I was on mute. I apologize. It is great to be with everyone today. I'm very, very excited to share with you, during these challenging times, the opportunities and choices that you have in the individual health market, and to do a little educational webinar for you today about all the different choices. This has been a very challenging year for everyone with the global pandemic and COVID-19. And United Healthcare wants to do its very best to help people be able to understand all of the options that they have available. So one thing that's going to be, we actually created, within United Healthcare, there's been a lot of employers that have unfortunately not been able to keep employees. And so we created a program called Project GetCovered. And it's a multi-carrier. So the interest of United Healthcare was not so much selling just United Healthcare plans, but it was actually meeting the needs of everyone in the individual market. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about the choices that you have in the individual market, as well as what we can do to help you. So a quick overview of what we're going to talk about today. The immediate opportunity. Right now, millions of people, as you know, have filed for unemployment in the last few months. And while that's tragic and unfortunate, it creates a huge need where each, and you might fall into that bucket, or you might have people that you know that fall into that bucket. We want to help people to understand when they leave the employer group market and they go to the individual market. We want to be able to provide choices for them. So what are the individual product choices? So today I want to share with you all the different choices that people have in the individual market, the pros and cons, what some of the price point differentials are, and also look at the national product availability footprint. So one of the things that is important to say is that in the individual market, each state determines what the choices are. And so I know I'm speaking to a lot of people at the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce. I want to make sure that, depending on what state you live determines the choices. And then how can we help the unemployed? That was United Healthcare's main goal. We've spent, roughly $25 million setting up this program just to help people to understand the choices, whether they sign up with a United Healthcare plan or whether they sign up with another carrier's plan. That's immaterial to us. We have an emergency that we need to help other people out. So if we go to the next slide, I'm going to share with you the choices that people have in the individual market. So there's different types of coverage. Most of you are aware of the Affordable Care Act, ACA health insurance. It's robust. We definitely have those options in the state of New Jersey. United Healthcare has a carrier called Oxford that has plans. There's also other carriers that have plans. I think Oscar's in the state of New Jersey, but across the country, there's hundreds, over 100 ACA carriers that offer Affordable Care Act plans that you can find either through a state exchange or healthcare.gov. A lot of people, when they lose employment, COBRA becomes an option. So you can apply for COBRA insurance with most employers if they have a certain number of employees, you can qualify for COBRA. The only downside to COBRA oftentimes is you're bearing the full weight of the employer group coverage, and it's typically costly, and you can only have it for a certain amount of period of time. Medicaid is becoming increasingly, as more and more people are losing employment. This is one of the two big areas where most of people fall into during this global pandemic when they lose their employer coverage is the ACA health insurance, and also Medicaid is a big funneling. Depending on the income of the individual, you will either fall into ACA health insurance or Medicaid, depending on the state rules and guidelines. For people that are over 65 or have health conditions, you can get Medicare. And then the one, I don't want to spend a ton of time today, but one of the big products that's out there is short-term health insurance, short-term medical. It's specifically designed for people in between jobs. The reason I don't want to spend a ton of time is it's not allowed in the state of New Jersey. So, but in many states, actually in most states in the country, short-term health insurance is another viable option. So critical things that we look at. So the choices, it's a very complex, the individual market can be seen to be very complex and very hard for consumers to understand what their choices are. And really what you need to do is do what's called a needs-based assessment. We need to ask a series of questions to figure out which plan is right for you in which circumstances. So typically what we look at, again, depending on the state that you're in, your choices will be either larger or smaller. So some states have a lot of ACA carriers, for instance. Some states have very few choices, and even the different types of coverage. So we look at the state of residence. We look at your age. Obviously, Medicare versus ACA. Those are two different age brackets. So if you're 65 and above, you would fall into the Medicare Advantage, Medicare Supplement age bracket. And if you're under the age of 65, you would fall into the ACA bracket. We look at for people that if they happen to have a disability, of some sort, we can actually, you might qualify for Medicaid or Medicare early. So we look at the gender of the person applying, how many dependents. So the reason we look at dependents and household income is it really determines whether you fall into a Medicaid bucket or an ACA bucket. And if you're unsubsidized, sometimes short-term medical can be a very price point thing. So we will look at all these factors, and we will ask a series of questions that really will help guide us into what would be the best plan for you and your family if you happen to fall into this bucket. So the next slide, please. So one of the things United Healthcare did that I'm really excited to share with you about today is we launched a site. You can go there either on your smartphone device or on your computer today, called GetCovered.com. And one thing you'll notice about this site is it doesn't say anything about United Healthcare. And the reason is we don't want it to be about United Healthcare. We want it to be about helping people that are caught up into this global pandemic. We want to make sure that they are effectively getting their needs met, whether it's through United Healthcare or through somebody else. And so the site is called GetCovered.com. If you go back just a second there on the previous slide, one of the things that we have that's really helpful is we have a downloadable guide that you can actually download that helps you understand. So, when you go to this site, you can actually click on this. You probably see the icon below, and you can actually be able to click on and be able to actually see the downloadable guide on all the different choices that we're going to go over today. Just so if you miss something, you can go to this website and be able to get it. So if we go to the next slide, what you'll see here is on the Get Covered is what we want to do is when I said that we want to do a needs-based analysis, we want to ask you a few base questions. So one of the things that we have is an online coverage selection wizard. And this is supposed to ask you a bunch of questions to kind of narrow down. When I talk about there's 6 or 7 different options that may be the best fit, we want to find out what's the best 1 or 2 choices for you and your family or people that you know that might fall into this bucket and be able to ask these questions. You can either do this online, or we actually have 4,000 licensed agents that can pick up the phone and actually walk you through that process and do it over the phone. So we have a choice about online or over the phone. If we go to the next slide, here's an example of some of the questions. So you can see all of the different choices. We talked about ACA, Affordable Care Act coverage, which is really, really strong medical coverage, COBRA, Medicare, CHIP, staying on the parents coverage, until you're age 26, spouses coverage, short-term health coverage, or Medicaid. So we have all the different choices below, and as you go through this online experience, it's actually going to ask you each of these questions, and what it'll do is it will narrow down the various choices that you have and the options that you have to be able to get to a product and a plan that best suits your needs. So for instance, and we didn't list all the questions. There's actually 8 or 9 questions that you answer. But once I did this, I actually went in, even though I'm a resident of the state of Indiana, I went in and I went in and used a New Jersey zip code, did this for myself, and out the top options. I did this last night. It took me about 10 minutes. I was able to figure out, okay, in my situation, if I were in the individual market, ACA insurance for the state of New Jersey would be my best option. I also thought that COBRA, the recommendation engine said COBRA would be the best option when I went through and answered the questions. Now, one of the things that we offer through here is we offer the ability for you to go online and get a free quote. There's no obligation to buy. Again, this is not, this is just a service that we're providing for people that have been impacted by the global pandemic. And if you qualify, you can get a free quote. If you clicked on that vote button, the free quote button, you would get a quote for the health insurance. And you'd also get the ability to apply directly and to be able to submit an application for ACA insurance and see the options on a multi-carrier basis. The other thing that we do is because, if you can go back just a split second, is you'll notice that there's an 800 number there. One of the things that we believe in is some people prefer to shop online and to do all their research online. I tend to look at Google and Bing and do a lot of research. We allow the ability to quote and enroll directly through healthcare.gov or we're a web-based entity, so you can get quotes. The other option that we have is actually to pick up, so you'll see an 800 number. That will be tied to one of those 4,000 licensed agents. And you can get your hand held as you walk through the various options in the market. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see one of the partners that we have. So you might not know this, but United Healthcare is actually purchased a very large, one of the largest national agencies called Health Markets. So helping us partner for this initiative, we actually have a partnership with Health Markets. And the reason I bring that up is when you pick up the 800 number or call, we offer 240 different insurance carrier partners through here. United Healthcare just is one of those 240. So when we talk about we want to provide a choice model, we want to provide quotes and benefits on a choice basis. We have United Healthcare, but we also have Oscar. We also have Oxford. We have all the different carriers in all the states. And then we have a combination of these agents, the technology to do online enrollments, the complete product suite. And in many states, we actually have face-to-face offices that you can drive to and meet. So this is one of the partnerships, and this is really specifically why this Get Covered campaign for United Healthcare is really more about a multi-carrier view as opposed to just a single carrier model. If we go to the next slide, one of the things you might wonder, well, how many choices do I have? So this is actually a model of the United States that shows you each state has a lot of different rules. For instance, what you'll see is if it's in the dark blue, there's more carriers, ACA carriers, for instance, participating in that state's offering. If it has less, so in the state of, for instance, South Dakota has very few offerings, if you see that, compared to a Texas or Florida. So depending on which state you have a certain amount of carrier choices. Up until recently, there were a lot of states that you could get open enrollment all throughout the year because of the global pandemic, and those are represented in the dots that they had open enrollments, even though this is special enrollment. Typically, with ACA plans, the open enrollment period for that is November 1st. So that starts here just a couple weeks and then runs through December 15th. Typically, that is the time that everybody can apply. For Medicare, if you fall into that bucket, that actually starts in a couple days on October 15th and runs through December 7th for Medicare Advantage plans. Those two open enrollments have 1/1 of 21 effective dates for their plans. And that open enrollment period, if you're outside of that open enrollment, you're in what's called special enrollment. And in special enrollment, you have to have a qualifying life event. And unfortunately, if you lose your job, it actually is a qualifying life event, and you can get the opportunity to shop for an ACA plan in the open market. And then there's a bunch of qualifying life events that would allow you. But because of the global pandemic, many states have allowed an exception to the special enrollment rule to allow people to apply year-round. So I would check each state to determine what those rules are. So anyway, this is the Health Markets footprint on how many carriers. You can see in the state of New Jersey, they're in the 2 to 5 carrier bucket of offerings that they offer in that state. So, and if we go to the next slide, again, I just wanted to say everything I said here, if you're looking for more resources, because I've been working as Vice President of Sales for many years, and I've been with United Healthcare. I've had the honor and privilege of working for United Healthcare for almost 16 years. The individual market, I would argue, is one of the most confusing markets to understand your choices. And for those of you that are looking for resources, I, again, highly recommend that you start with the GetCovered.com website and that you print off the downloadable guide. We created an easy cheat sheet for you to be able to, if you missed something that I said today or are confused, we wanted to create a guide that was specifically making it easy for you to understand the individual market and what those choices look like. And there's a downloadable guide. So at that point, I wanted to thank you. I wanted to make sure that I left time. I know I covered a lot very fast, and really, really appreciate the opportunity of addressing you today. And thank you for your time.
Is Chris Law there? This is Janet Alekpel. I'm the project manager for National ACE. Thank you so much, Chris Reuter, for doing a great presentation on, understanding benefits for both employers and employees. I'm going to see if Chris Law can come on, because he is such an important part of why this presentation happened for this chamber. Chris, are you able to unmute your audio to just say hello? Or okay, I think we're having a few technical difficulties with Chris's audio, but oh, Chris, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. We
No?
can hear you. Wonderful. Chris, why don't you say hello to everybody? We're so glad that you're here. Thank you.
Yeah, I apologize. I think it was some technical glitch, and I have to switch the browser to Chrome to make it work. So again, hello everyone. My name is Chris Law, and I'm the National Vice President of Asian Initiatives for United Healthcare. So we are very happy that my colleague Chris Reuter has been able to share some valuable benefits information with you all, whether you're an employer looking for up-to-date guidelines or unavailable healthcare benefit resources, or for your employees who are transitioning to a different role or self-employed individual. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat box, and then we will try to address them. And also, if you are joining our webinar for the first time today, thank you for attending. We're excited to put this event together and plan to host more informative webinars in partnership with local organizations, and welcome any suggestions for webinar topics from our business community. So I would really take this time to thank National ACE for working with us for this collaborative effort between NJCACC, National ACE, and United Healthcare. Thank you.
So we are opening up the
Janet,
platform now. Oh, go ahead. I was going to say,
No.
we're opening up the chat and the platform now for anybody that has questions in regards to employer benefits or employee benefits. Even if you're self-employed, Chris, you can answer those questions as well, right? Chris Reuter, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'd be more than happy to answer it. I know Christopher Law is an expert on the group side as well, but my expertise is more on the individual and self-employed side, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So are there, I guess, what are some of the questions that people do ask? I know some people might be shy, or they might be new to Zoom in terms of trying to get and answer questions on chat, but what are some of the questions that, employers are, that typically ask you? Even though you're United Healthcare, your presentation was so great in terms of how it addresses things on a higher level, but what are some of the things that employers should be looking for in this new enrollment period coming up?
Well, typically what they're looking for is there's the fully insured market. So typically each employer has a certain price range that they are looking to provide, insurance for their employees. And so that, for instance, United Healthcare has a company called All Savers. So there's the fully insured market, and then there's there's a new emerging market that is, and I didn't get into this, is a very complex, but a new emerging market called the ICRA market, where you can do an HRA, which is a defined contribution model that will allow the employees to actually go to the individual market, get an ACA plan, and then the employer, just like a 401k, they're only giving a defined contribution in the form of an HRA. That's the newest trend in the market. It was an executive order signed by President Trump that allows people to get it allows employers to offer individual health insurance and then to pay for it by giving a defined contribution in the form of an HRA. That's the newest trend, but most of the time in the employer market, it's how much money can I afford, whether they're a small group employer, and especially in these economic sensitive times, if they're struggling in the fully insured market. Again, there's offerings United has, for instance, called All Savers, that can lower the premium cost that employer would have to absorb. And then if they can't keep their level of employees, one of the concerns we have in the individual market is when they can't keep all of their employees, how do we transition them to offerings that make sure that they're helping their people if they can't keep them? So that seems to be a really big trend, especially in the small group market.
Thank you for sharing that, because I'm sure a lot of employers are just, they're still trying to maneuver through this because it's so new to them. So I'm glad you're, talking about trends. And, we are encouraging, if anyone has any questions in regards to what Chris just talked about, share your email in the chat, because we'd be happy to follow up with you afterwards. I know Chris would be more than happy to address some of your particular questions in regards to just the employer side of things. Also, as an individual, I know some of the questions that I myself, in terms of shifting healthcare benefits, when I'm coming from, a full set of benefits to, when they transition my role. I mean, how does that work? Because I know that that's so confusing for a lot of people as well, when you're trying to, when you're finding out that you've been downsized, for instance. I mean, how can I keep the same coverage, but not spend an exorbitant amount of money in terms of losing what I have? Like, will I have the same doctors if I change over? Will I have, the same types of benefits? Those are all these, really important questions that people just sometimes are too timid to ask because they're just not sure.
Well, I think that's it's an emerging issue. It's an excellent issue. Typically the most important factor that determines that transition, if you are moving from an employer job to an individual job, is income-based. So what your income is and your household size determines what subsidy you get for the ACA market. It also determines whether whether that former employee would be able to qualify for CHIP. And really, the income oftentimes determines our standards. So the easiest thing to do to have no transition is to take COBRA insurance if you're able to afford it. The problem is COBRA insurance, most people don't understand just how much employers paid for health insurance until they have to bear the full weight of that. And oftentimes they can't afford it. And so the next best is the ACA as far as coverage goes, as far as strength of coverage. But the problem in the individual market is the doctors, which is a huge issue that the Medicaid networks that a lot of the ACA carriers do to control price points cause it where your doctor might not be in network. So really, that's why we highly recommend that you talk to a licensed agent that knows all the various options, because in your market, because what we really need to do is, what's your doctors, make sure your doctors are in network. What's your income level to make sure we're giving you the proper recommendation. We're not saying take COBRA if you're qualified for a full subsidy in the ACA market or you qualify for Medicaid or CHIP. We want to make sure we give you that proper recommendation. And so I think there's more mistakes in the individual market than any health insurance market, and that's because of the lack of education. And that's what we're trying to do so desperately. With so many job losses, as you probably hear, there's 30 million people in the United States that have lost their job this year. And and the number keeps going up. How do we help these people make that transition? It's a huge need right now.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you for just addressing that, because I think there are, again, so many people so timid to ask. They don't realize because they've been, under the wing of their corporation. And, as they're shifting into these, newer roles and they transition into maybe self-employment, or they've been, hours reduced, they don't know what their options are. They don't know that they have to work with a licensed, healthcare or insurance broker, if you will, so that they are providing, the most smoothest transition, something that fits their budget. Thank you for addressing that. Is there anybody else that has any questions? And Chris Law, please, feel free to jump in if you wanted to talk about anything that is trending on your side.
Well, I think my colleague Chris has covered most of it, so I don't really have any additional comments.
Maybe the one thing I'll say in closing is the other big trend that's happening is the gig economy. So oftentimes you'll hear the gig economy or contract workers. The huge amounts of employers, nowadays are moving to this model. So we see that as an emerging trend. So the individual market is growing at a rapid pace. Again, regulations like ICRA, so it's called ICHRA if you want to Google it. That's a new thing. The gig economy and how many people are getting employer-sponsored coverage versus individual coverage tends to be growing on the individual side. That's a newer thing that we think is only going to expand over time as well. So those are some of the newest emerging trends. That's
great. Well, I am going to do, before we sign off, I wanted to say thank you so much, Chris Reuter, Chris Law, and of course, John Eng from the New Jersey Chinese American Chamber. This is our first Zoom webinar for this chamber. And as National ACE as a partner, we're so grateful that we have this platform to talk with you today. Again, feel free to send us any, emails or any questions you may have. We can still continue this conversation after this webinar is over. But we are thrilled that we had this opportunity to talk with all of you today. Look forward to more webinars with the New Jersey Chamber. John, did you want to say anything in closing before we close out today? I will say one more thing before we close out on the National ACE side. I did share a survey link. It is in regards to AAPI businesses and small business status in this community. It's so important that everyone takes this survey because this data is going to be used and taken to policymakers on Capitol Hill to let them know in terms of funding, additional funding resources. This is something that we need desperately. So everyone, if you can, take about 5 minutes for the survey. This data will be used to take to policymakers, as we said. And, it's just so critical. And the end of the survey will be this Friday, October 16th. We'll share the link again, as you see there in the chat box. And then, John, did you have any closing remarks for everybody?
Yes, Janet. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Very good. First of all, Chris Reuter, thank you very kindly. You're very knowledgeable, informative talk on coverage. I think it's the most useful thing. And thank you for your time. Thank you for the effort. Here, I'm going to give people some email addresses. First of all, mine. If anybody has any personal questions or whatnot, you can send it to me directly. That is johnncng@gmail.com. In case that the info@njcacc.org is overflowing. Okay. Again, another person I have to truly thank is Janet. You've been doing such a wonderful job. Without your effort, I don't think we have been able to kick off this first webinar with National ACE. Thank you. You've been very kind. You've been very nice, and thank you for the good job. And your team also. Now, can I pass it to Chris? You have something to say? Chris Law?
No, I just want to thank everybody for attending today, and I hope you will find this webinar useful. And as we know that there are going to be more people that will be have to leave their job in the coming months. So I think this is a valuable resource for both the employers who are going through this hardship, this hard time, and also the employees who have to go through this hard time as well. So again, once again, thank you, Chris, for leading the discussion, and thank you, National ACE and NJCCC for sponsoring this event. Thank you.
Very good. So have a good afternoon, everybody. See you next time.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.
And we will have this webinar available on our acesmallbusiness.org. You can see it here on the top corner. This will be available online on our website as well as NJCACC. Just if you happen to miss it, or if you know of others that can participate or can benefit from this webinar, it'll be available post-event today. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon. Take care.